The iridescent ship descended through the morning clouds like a pearl dropping through silk, its surface rippling with colors that shouldn't exist in Earth's atmosphere. James Harrison stood at the edge of the secure landing zone at the International First Contact Facility, his dark hair ruffled by the strange air currents emanating from the vessel. As the facility's lead xenobiologist, he'd spent 15 years preparing for this moment, the first official tourist visit from an alien civilization. The ship settled onto the landing pad with impossible grace, barely disturbing the air around it. James gripped his tablet tighter, his knuckles white with anticipation. The delegation from Celestia had been surprisingly specific in their request. They wanted to experience Earth as tourists, to understand human culture firsthand. It was unprecedented, unexpected, and, if James was being honest with himself, slightly suspicious. The ship's entrance materialized rather than opened, the solid hull simply becoming transparent before disappearing entirely. 5 figures emerged, and James felt his scientific objectivity waver. They were humanoid, but with an ethereal quality that defied description. Their skin seemed to shimmer with subtle patterns that shifted like northern lights, and their hair moved as if suspended in water despite the still air. The tallest of the group stepped forward, her movements liquid and precise. Her hair was the color of starlight, and her eyes held swirling galaxies of purple and gold. "Greetings, Earth representative. I am Lyra, lead researcher." "Ah, lead tourist coordinator from Celestia." She caught herself with a slight smile that made James' heart skip a beat. "These are my companions, Iris, Celine, Dawn, and Cassidy." James noted the oddly Earth-like names, but filed that observation away for later. "Welcome to Earth. I'm Dr. James Harrison, your liaison for this visit. We're honored to be your hosts." He managed to keep his voice steady despite the overwhelming presence of the aliens. Each of them radiated an energy that made his skin tingle, like standing too close to a powerful electrical field. "The honor is ours," Lyra responded, her voice carrying musical undertones that seemed to bypass his ears and resonate directly in his mind. "We have studied your world from afar for so long. To experience it firsthand is enlightening." As James led them through the initial security protocols, modified extensively to accommodate their unique biology, he couldn't help but notice their intense interest in even the most mundane aspects of the facility. Iris, with hair the color of a sunset, spent several minutes examining a simple potted plant in the corridor. Dawn, whose skin seemed to shift between shades of morning light, asked detailed questions about the building's ventilation system. "Your species has achieved remarkable progress in genetic engineering," Cassidy commented casually as they passed the facility's bio-research wing. Her eyes, shifting between silver and blue, lingered on the sealed laboratory doors. "That's an unusual observation for a tourist," James replied carefully, watching their reactions. "Most visitors are more interested in our landmarks or natural wonders." Celine, the quietest of the group, exchanged a quick glance with Lyra. "We find all aspects of human civilization fascinating," she said smoothly. "Your species' rapid advancement in multiple scientific fields is part of what makes Earth an appealing destination." Later that evening, as James reviewed the day's recordings in his private office, he couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't adding up. The Celestians' questions had been too precise, their interest too focused on specific aspects of human biology and genetics. Their tourist cover story was perfect, almost too perfect. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Lyra stood in his doorway, her natural luminescence casting gentle shadows on the walls. "Dr. Harrison, I hope I'm not interrupting." She moved into the room with that impossible grace that made him forget to breathe for a moment. "I had some questions about tomorrow's itinerary." Of course, he gestured to a chair, trying to maintain professional composure. "And please call me James." She sat down, her expression growing serious. "James, then. Tell me, what do you know about genetic diversity and its role in species survival?" The question caught him off guard. That's an unusual topic for vacation planning. Lyra's eyes met his, and for a moment he saw something ancient and worried in those stellar depths. "Perhaps," she said softly, "this isn't entirely a vacation after all." Before she could continue, an alarm blared through the facility, the biochemical detection system. James jumped to his feet, but Lyra remained eerily calm. "It seems," she said, rising slowly, "that we need to have a much longer conversation about why we're really here." In that moment, watching the swirling patterns on her skin intensify with emotion, James realized that his life's work preparing for alien contact hadn't prepared him for this at all. Whatever was coming, it would change everything, not just for him, but for all of humanity. The biochemical alarm's wail faded to a dull pulse as James rushed through the facility's corridors, Lyra keeping pace effortlessly beside him. The emergency lights cast strange shadows across her shimmering skin, making her seem even more otherworldly. They reached the bioresearch wing to find the other Celestians already there, gathered around a sealed door with expressions of intense concentration. "What triggered the alarm?" James demanded, swiping his access card. The door hissed open to reveal Dawn kneeling beside a broken vial, her hands hovering over the spilled liquid that seemed to glow with a faint blue luminescence. "A simple miscalculation," Iris explained, too quickly. "We were curious about your storage methods for genetic samples. Dawn's environmental suit must have malfunctioned." James frowned. "No one authorized you to be in this section." "And what environmental suit?" He looked at their seemingly normal appearances, remembering how they'd walked through the facility earlier without any protective gear. Lyra stepped forward, placing herself between James and her companions. The patterns on her skin pulsed with what he was beginning to recognize as agitation. "James, remember when I said we needed to talk? That time has come sooner than expected." Before she could continue, his tablet chimed with an urgent message. The facility's sensors had detected unprecedented changes in the spilled sample's molecular structure. It was evolving, recombining in ways that defied Earth's scientific understanding. "What exactly are you doing with our genetic samples?" His voice was steady, but his mind raced through the implications. The Celestians exchanged glances, that silent communication he'd noticed before passing between them. "Saving them," Celine said simply, "and by extension saving you." The next 24 hours became a blur of revelations and impossible choices. Under the guise of tourism, the Celestians had been collecting and modifying genetic samples from Earth's various species. Their true mission, as Lyra finally explained in James's office during a tense midnight meeting, was far more crucial than a simple vacation. "Our long-range sensors detected it first," she said, creating a holographic display from what had appeared to be a decorative bracelet. "A genetic degradation cascade that will affect all life on Earth within the next century. Your species hasn't noticed it yet, because it's happening at a molecular level, but the signs are there in your rising disease rates, declining fertility across species, subtle mutations." James sat heavily in his chair, watching the projection show cellular deterioration he recognized from some of their own recent studies. "And you're here to what?" "Fix our entire planet's genetic code." "We're here to help you fix it yourselves," Cassidy interjected, her silver-blue eyes intense. Our society faced a similar crisis millennia ago. We survived by developing techniques to stabilize and strengthen genetic structures. But we can't simply give you the solution. It must be adapted specifically for Earth's biosphere. As Dawn and Iris worked with the facility's equipment, demonstrating techniques far beyond current human science, James found himself drawn into long discussions with Lyra. She explained their technology, their history, and their hopes for Earth's future. With each conversation, the line between professional curiosity and personal attraction became increasingly blurred. "Your species is remarkable," Lyra told him one evening as they watched the sunset from the facility's roof. The fading light played across her luminescent skin in ways that made his breath catch. "You face extinction, yet you still create art, music, love. You never stop dreaming of the stars. Is that why you chose to appear in forms we would find attractive?" James asked, voicing a question that had nagged at him since their arrival. Lyra's laugh was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Our natural form isn't so different from this. We simply enhanced certain features to ease diplomatic relations." She turned to face him, her galaxy eyes serious. "But these bodies are real, James. What we feel in them is real." The moment hung between them, heavy with possibility, until alarms blared through the facility for the second time in 2 days. This time, it wasn't a biochemical alert. It was a security breach. Earth's military had finally decided that the alien tourists posed too great a risk. "They're locking down the facility," James announced, checking his tablet. "Someone leaked data about your genetic modifications. They're treating it as a potential biological attack." Lyra's skin patterns shifted to sharp, agitated angles. "We knew this might happen. Humans fear what they don't understand, and we've given them much to fear." She touched his arm, sending electrical tingles through his body. "James, we need your help. What we're doing here could save your entire planet, but only if we're allowed to complete our work." As armed security forces converged on the facility, James faced a decision that would affect not just his future, but the future of every living thing on Earth. Trust the aliens who had lied about their true purpose, but might hold the key to humanity's survival, or trust his own government's judgment that they posed a threat. Looking into Lyra's eyes, seeing the genuine concern and something deeper there, he made his choice. "The genetics lab has a secure sublevel," he said, already moving toward the roof access door. "We can continue your work there, but we need to move fast." As they rushed through the darkening facility, James realized that his life's work studying alien life hadn't prepared him for actually falling in love with one. Now he just had to hope that love wouldn't doom his entire species. The secure sublevel hummed with energy as Dawn and Iris worked at breakneck speed, their hands dancing over equipment that seemed to respond to their very thoughts. James watched in amazement as complex genetic structures appeared in holographic displays, twisting and reforming under their guidance. The sound of boots and voices echoed from the levels above, growing closer with each passing minute. "The genetic stabilization sequence is only halfway complete," Cassidy reported, her fingers flying over what looked like liquid light. "We need at least another hour." "We don't have an hour," Celine warned, her attention focused on a security feed she'd somehow tapped into. "Human military forces are sweeping each level. They're using thermal imaging to track us." Lyra stood at the center of it all, her stellar eyes fixed on a massive holographic display showing the cascade of genetic modifications spreading through their test samples. The patterns on her skin pulsed with intense concentration, matching the rhythm of the data streams surrounding her. "James," she called softly, not taking her eyes from the display. come see what we've discovered." He approached, trying to ignore the growing sounds of the search above them. The hologram showed a double helix structure he recognized as human DNA, but it was changing, strengthening in ways he'd never seen before. "Is this the solution? The way to prevent the degradation?" "Part of it," Lyra replied. "But there's something else. Something we didn't expect to find." She waved her hand, and the display shifted to show a comparison between human DNA and what he assumed was Celestian genetic code. The similarities were stunning. "We're not just similar," she explained, her voice filled with wonder. "Our species are compatible. Far more compatible than we initially believed. It's as if." "As if we were meant to find each other," James finished, understanding dawning in his mind. "That's why you can take human form so easily. Why we can communicate, why we're drawn to each other." The moment was shattered by the sound of an explosion above them. Dust rained from the ceiling as armed forces breached another security door. "They're getting closer," Celine warned, "and they're using specialized equipment to counter our cloaking technology." James made a quick decision. "I need to go up there. I can explain what's really happening, buy you more time." He turned to Lyra, his heart racing. "If what you've shown me is true, this isn't just about saving Earth anymore. This is about both our species' futures." Lyra caught his arm as he turned to leave. "James, there's more you need to know." Her skin patterns swirled with emotion. "The genetic degradation cascade. It's not natural. Our historical records suggest it was weaponized by an ancient species that feared the potential of Earth's life forms. We're not just here to save you. We're here to undo a crime committed millennia ago." The revelation hit him like a physical blow, an engineered extinction event. But why? Because your species, like ours, has the potential to evolve beyond current limitations, to become something extraordinary. Her eyes held his. "The compatibility between us isn't an accident. It's proof that we're both part of something larger." Another explosion rocked the facility. Dawn looked up from her work, her expression urgent. "Lyra, we have a problem. The genetic stabilization sequence. It requires a catalyst we didn't anticipate. A bridging element between our species." Understanding dawned on Lyra's face, followed by determination. "A hybrid code." "Of course." She turned to James. "We need a volunteer. Someone willing to be the first to merge Celestian and human DNA. The modified code would then serve as a template to stabilize Earth's biosphere." "The process is untested," Iris warned. "We don't know what it might do to a human physiology." James looked at the genetic display, then at the ceiling where dust continued to fall as troops moved closer. "What are the odds of success?" "Theoretically, 60%, Cassidy calculated. But the physical and mental changes would be irreversible. And without it, the degradation will accelerate," Celine said quietly. "Within a century, Earth's genetic structures will become too unstable to support complex life." Another explosion, closer this time. They could hear voices and footsteps directly above them now. James met Lyra's gaze, seeing both fear and hope in those impossible eyes. "Do it," he said firmly. "Use my DNA." "James, wait." Lyra stepped closer, her voice intense. "There's one more thing you should know. The process, it creates a permanent bond. Not just genetic, but psychological. Whoever undergoes this transformation will be linked to their Celestian donor. Forever." He could hear the unspoken question in her voice. This wasn't just about saving humanity anymore. It was about choosing a future that would tie him irrevocably to her world, to her very essence. The ceiling cracked as breaching charges were set above them. They had minutes at most. James reached out, touching the shimmering patterns on Lyra's cheek. "I made my choice the moment I saw you step out of that ship," he said softly. "I just didn't know it then." As armed forces prepared to breach the sublevel, James Harrison, Earth's lead xenobiologist, stepped into a chamber that would either save his world or destroy him. The last thing he saw before the transformation began was Lyra's smile, bright as distant stars, promising a future beyond anything humanity had dreamed possible. Metamorphosis and understanding. The transformation chamber hummed with otherworldly energy as James's DNA began to merge with Lyra's genetic template. His consciousness expanded in ways he couldn't have imagined, every cell in his body singing with new awareness. Through their developing bond, he felt Lyra's presence, her thoughts, her memories, her entire species' history flowing into his mind. The military forces breached the sublevel, just as the process reached its peak. They burst in, weapons raised, only to stop in amazement at the scene before them. James floated in a column of pure light, his form shifting between human and something gloriously different. His skin had taken on the same shimmering patterns as the Celestians, and his eyes now held the same stellar depths. "Stand down!" A commanding voice cut through the chaos. Director Catherine Wells, head of Earth's Security Council, strode into the room. "Our sensors just confirmed it. The genetic degradation is reversing. Whatever they're doing, it's working." Through the haze of transformation, James reached out with his new abilities, projecting his thoughts to everyone in the room. They saw what he saw, the truth about Earth's engineered genetic time bomb, the Celestians' mission to save them, and the profound connection between their species. Images flooded the room. Holographic displays showing cellular regeneration spreading across the planet, affecting every living thing. The Celestians' modification wasn't just stopping the degradation, it was unlocking humanity's dormant potential. "We were never meant to be enemies." Lyra's voice joined with James's in the shared consciousness. "Our species are two branches of the same cosmic tree, deliberately separated eons ago. Today, we heal that ancient wound." New dawn. 1 year later, the International Space and Genetic Research Center sprawled across what had once been the first contact facility. James stood at its heart, his transformed body gleaming softly in the morning light. Besides him, Lyra watched as another group of human volunteers prepared for their own genetic enhancement. The past year had brought changes beyond imagination. The successful merger of Celestian and human DNA had opened doors to technological and biological advancement that transformed both societies. Earth had taken its first steps into a larger galactic community, with the Celestians as their closest allies and partners. "They're still nervous," Lyra observed, watching the volunteers. Her hand found James's, their skin patterns synchronizing in ripples of light. Through their bond, he felt her pride in humanity's courage. "Change is never easy," he replied, remembering his own transformation. "But they understand what's at stake, and what's to gain." The procedure had become safer and more refined since his pioneering transformation. Now, hundreds of humans chose to undergo the process each month, creating a growing population of hybrids who could bridge both worlds. Each transformation strengthened the genetic stability of Earth's biosphere, while creating deep bonds between the two species. Dawn and Iris had established a permanent genetic research facility on Earth, working alongside human scientists to further unlock the potential hidden in their combined DNA. Celine and Cassidy traveled between worlds, coordinating the growing exchange of knowledge and culture. And James? He had found his place between worlds, helping others understand and adapt to their new reality. His bond with Lyra had deepened into something that transcended ordinary love, a connection that spanned genetics, consciousness, and the very fabric of space-time. "Remember when you first arrived, pretending to be tourists?" he teased, sending waves of affection through their bond. Lyra's laugh sparkled in his mind. "Our best deception turned into our greatest truth. We came to save your world, but found our own salvation in the process." From the observation window, they could see the gleaming spires of the new joint Earth-Celestian spaceport rising in the distance. Ships from both worlds came and went regularly now, carrying scientists, diplomats, and yes, even actual tourists between the stars. What do you think they'll write in the history books? James wondered, watching a Celestian ship descend gracefully through the atmosphere. "They'll write that love saved 2 species. Lyra replied, her stellar eyes twinkling. "That when humanity faced extinction, they didn't just survive, they evolved. And they'll write that it all began with 5 alien girls who pretended to be on vacation." James pulled her close, their combined bioluminescence creating patterns of light that danced across the walls. Above them, the stars beckoned, no longer distant and unreachable, but gateways to a shared future neither species could have imagined alone. In the end, what had started as a simple story of aliens on vacation had become something far more profound. A testament to the power of trust, love, and the unlimited potential that exists when different worlds come together as one. The end.